Hey all, my name is Paul Borosky, and today what I'm going to do is show you all how to use integer division, TryParse method, and the math round feature in Visual Basic. And in order to test these three features, what I've done is designed a little program I want you all to work through. And for this program, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take in the cost of an item. We want to also take in how much the customer is going to pay in cash for the item. And from there, we want to go ahead and calculate the change due to the customer and how many quarters the customer will receive. So as I said, the learning objectives for this is going to be how to use integer division, applying logic to solving a problem, using the TryParse method, and the math round feature in Visual Basic. Before we do any kind of code, actual code into the computer, what we want to do is we want to kind of lay out our thoughts and ideas as to how we want the program to flow. So for Visual Basic, you have two components to a program. You've got your GUI, and which is just your design page, and then you've got your code page. And so for the design page, what I want to do is I want to create label boxes for the cost of an item, the cash on hand, how many quarters are due. From there, we want to also go ahead and create two text boxes. One text box to take in information for the cost of an item. The second text box is for how much cash is on hand. Next thing what we want is we want to go ahead and create three buttons. The first button should calculate the change. The second button should clear the different labels and text boxes. And the third button should go ahead and exit the program. And now, for the code, so that's our GUI. For the code, again, also keep in mind, all of this can change. This is just my original thoughts and ideas. Once we get into programming, we're going to be making changes, and we're going to be changing variables around, adding variables, subtracting variables, what have you. But again, this is just my original thoughts and ideas. For the coding, what I want to do is I want to declare a variable to go ahead and take in the cost of an item. I want to declare a variable to go ahead and take in how much money the customer is going to pay for the dollar amount. Next thing what I want to do is I want to declare a variable to hold the change due. I also want to declare a variable to go ahead and store the value of a quarter. Next thing I want to do is declare a variable for the coins due. Once that's done, I want to go ahead and calculate, and I want to go ahead and take the cash paid minus the cost of an item. Then I want to go ahead and display the change due once I go ahead and do that calculation. Next thing I want to do is I want to calculate the number of quarters owed to the customer. From that, I want to then display the number of quarters owed. And for the for the clear button, what I want to do is I want to go ahead, once that clear button is clicked, I want to go ahead and clear out the text box for the cost of an item. I also want to clear out the amount the customer paid. The final button, I want to go ahead and use an exit button to close the program. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and now take a look at our program. And what I've done is I went ahead and designed the GUI, and right here we have the cost, the cash paid, the change due, and the quarters due. So we've got our labels right here. In addition to my pseudocode, what I've also done is I've added a couple more labels. And the label right here is going to display the change due, and the label right here is going to show the quarters due. And then we have our two text boxes right here, and then we've got our three buttons like we thought. Next thing what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our code. So for the code right here, I went ahead and I declared 5 variables. And actually it looks like 6 variables. I'm not sure I used the 6th one though. We'll see. Alright, so the variables I declared is the cost, so however much an item is going to cost, and declare it as a double because it very well could be a decimal. We're not going to be dealing with just with integers for the cost. It could be $1, it could be $1.25, $1.27. So I declared that as a variable. As a double. The next thing that I did is I declared the customer, whatever the customer pays, when I take that information in, I want to go ahead and store that dollar amount as a double as well because they can also pay not only in dollars but in change as well. Next thing what I want to do is once I calculate and I subtract whatever the customer paid from the cost, I want to save that as a change due. So I've got the variable declared as change, and we declare the variable as dim, then whatever we want the name of the variable to be. Then we're going to just, we want to tell the computer how much memory to put aside. All right, and so what we're going to do here, where was I? So we're talking about the dim, so I want to take in however much change is due to the customer, and that could be a double. Next thing I want to do is, since one of the learning objectives to this is going to be using integer division, so what I want to do is I want to take the quarter, and we all know quarter is 25 cents. However, I want to go ahead and I'm going to store that as an integer for 25. Working with decimals can get a little bit tough because we never know how Visual Basic may or may not round a different number. And so just to take that concern away, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use just straight up integer division. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take quarter and I'm going to set that as an integer, and I'm also going to give it a value. Anytime you set, just to back up, anytime you declare a variable, you want to go ahead and declare it. You want to say what type of variable it is, and then you also want to give it a value. So the next thing what I did is coins. How many coins are going to be given back to the customer? How many quarters? And so what I did, I declared a variable for coins as well. I declared that as an integer because you're not going to give a half of a dime or half of a quarter back, and in this case, a quarter. So it's always going to be an integer, so I set that as an integer, again, gave it the value. And change to, I'm not sure what I use change to for, maybe we'll come back to that. All right, so the first thing what we did the simplest thing, and I coded the exit button. And for the exit button, the way you code your exit button is just me.close, open close parenthesis, and it's as simple as that's how you code that button. Next thing what I did is I went ahead and calculated the calculate button. And the way I did this, and I got a little comment right here, and the way you do a comment is you use your little apostrophe. And so what I'm doing here is I'm taking what I want to do in this section of code is I want to take the cost, whatever the cost of the item is, and I want to subtract that from whatever the customer paid, and I want to store that into change. So that's my objective for this segment of code. So in order to do that, what I want to do is I want to take in whatever's in this text box, and whatever's stored in this text box is going to be what's called a string. And we can't add, subtract, or divide a string. And so what we need to do is we need to convert that to a number. And in this case, we want to convert that to a double. So the best way to convert that string that's in cost textbox.text, we want to take that information that's stored in there, which is right here, and we want to convert that to a double, and then we want to store this as cost. So the way this program is going to read this is it's going to say, and this TryParse method is what tells the computer, hey, I want to convert one item, one type of data to a different type of data. So we're going to take in, and we'll use this by the double.tryparse, open up a parenthesis, and then whatever information we want to convert, and then where we want to convert this information to. So the computer is going to go and say, hey, we want to go ahead and convert some information to a double. So it's going to take in whatever's in this cost text box right here. It's going to take that information in. It's going to convert it to a double, and then it's going to put it right here to cost. Once that's done, now we got another TryParse method. And what this one's going to do is going to take in this information here. So the first information before the comma is the information we want to convert. So it's going to read in customer text box.text, which is this information right here. It's going to take that information in, it's going to convert it to a double, and then it's going to save it to customer. Once we do those two steps, we use the TryParse method. What we can do now is we can take whatever the customer paid, subtract the cost, and we can go ahead and store it to change. However, what may happen is that we might have and a decimal that's going to be 3 or 4 digits long. We don't want that when we're dealing with change. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the math function for Visual Basic. And I'm going to use the math.round. And what this is going to do is it's going to round whatever number I put in here. It's going to round it to a specific amount of decimal places. So what I'm doing is the math.round. I want to go ahead and convert this change, whatever the value stored in change, I want to go ahead and convert to only 2 decimals. So it's going to be math.round, the number you want to have changed, and the number of decimal places you want it truncated or changed to. So this one's going to be math.round. We're going to take in change, and we're going to go ahead and convert it to only 2 decimal places, and then we're going to store this back to change. So we're taking customer minus cost, and we're saving it to change. Then we're going to head and we're going to mess around with this variable, and we're going to go ahead and we only want 2 decimal places, and so that's what's going to do. And we're also going to save it again to change. Next thing what we want to do is we want to take the variable, whatever is stored in change, and we want to go ahead and display that to our change label. And the change label is right here. So after these calculations, it's going to take the value of change and it's going to store it to this text, this label. The next thing we want to do is we want to use some integer division in order to figure out how many quarters are due to the customer. And the first thing we want to do is we want to take the change and we're going to multiply that by 100. And we're going to store it to change. And once we do that, it's going to get rid of any kind of decimal that we have, because we just stored it here to 2 decimals. We're multiplying it by 100. Now it gets rid of those 2 decimals, and now we can go ahead and use integer division. And the formula to do to figure out the quarters is going to be the change, whatever the change is due, and we're going to go ahead and use integer division. Regular division is going to be a /. However, integer division is going to be your backslash. So we're going to use our backslash, and we're going to divide that by quarters. So whatever's in change is going to be divided by quarters, and we're going to save that to however many coins are due. Next thing what we're going to do is we're going to take coins, and we're going to save that to our label box, and we want to change the text. So it's going to be coins, and that's going to be sent to the quarter2 label.text. Finally, what we're going to do for the clear button is we want to clear out the cost text box. We want to clear out the cash paid text box. We also want to clear out the change due, and we also want to clear out the quarters due. So we want 2 labels cleared, and we want 2 text boxes cleared. So let's make sure we have that. And right here, the cost text box.text, we clear that out, and then we clear out the second text box, and right here we're clearing out the 2 labels. With that done, let's go ahead and test this, make sure it works. So first thing we're going to do to make it really simple, say the cost is $1.25 and we pay $2. Click to calculate, and the change due is 75 cents, which is 3/4. Now let's go ahead and test the clear button. It clears everything. Let's try one more. Let's say the cost is 1 penny, and we pay $1. Click to calculate. Change due is 99 cents, and the quarters due is $3. Hit the clear button. Everything seems to work, and hopefully this gives you a better understanding of our learning objectives. And let's click the exit button. So the learning objectives for this was the integer division, TryParse method, and the math round feature. So hopefully y'all got something out of this, and have a good day or evening.